Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. My name is Jamila Brown. I'm curatorial assistant here at the Mint. And I'm going to introduce Jessica, who's going to introduce the program and panel talk today. First, I'll just say this is like a full circle moment because Jessica Gaynelle Moss curated me into the first ever exhibition that I was in at Mood Black, her Mood Black at Goodyear. And now to work on this project, and assist you with this. Yeah, it's just full circle. But so Jessica Gaynelle Moss, she received her bachelor's in fine arts from Carnegie Mellon University in 2009 and a master's in art administration, policy and management from the School of Art Institute in Chicago in 2015. She then went on to graduate from the University of Pittsburgh School of Law in 2018, so she's just a well-rounded woman and scholar. She's contributed an abundance of work and energy and love to the arts culture here in Charlotte, and been an inspiration to so many, including myself, as a Black woman in the arts. And as an artist and curator, custodian of Black art, and creator of platforms and spaces that invest in and support Black artists. That is her words from her bio. She's also the founding director of the Roll Up Charlotte Artist Residency Program here, which is currently hosting Adam Davis. It's an amazing project. And she's also building on these redevelopment projects with, for example, her Garfield PGH project in Pittsburgh. And this is to create even more space for Black artists to flourish. Jessica is the administrative director of the art collective and residency project Civil Shrine. And while in Charlotte, she held positions as creative director across the street at the Harvey B. Gantt, at the New Gallery of Modern Art, and taught at Queen's University. And beyond Charlotte, Jessica has also worked with the Hyde Park Art Center, the Arts Alliance Illinois, the National Portrait Gallery, and with the Astor Gates, the Black Artists Retreat and Rebuild Foundation. Again, I'm personally honored to have gotten to work with Jessica and all of the collectors on this project. The Vault is incredible to have here in the galleries. It's for us, by us. It's really important work. And having Jessica's curatorial vision and her dreams come to life in gallery and through these programs is so special. And so, Jessica Gaynelle Moss.
I didn't know that I would be so emotional from the introduction. It's special not because the words, right? Because we know these things. They're accessible on the internet. I need to stand up. It's special because the person who said it. Girl, why you do this to me? We're about to start. I gotta take some laps. Thank you. That's very special. Thank you.
I know it's hard for even me to get out. I feel
Dang,
emotional.
girl. Okay, so we're gonna begin. So much of what we're talking about is being in home space and being with family. And it's true, over these past couple of years, I've become family with Mila. Oops, I'll get that later. Girl, you got me shook. And and so many people who are in this space. And so before we go any further, I just want to say thank you to all of you who have chosen to be here on your Saturday at 11 o'clock in the morning. You chose to get through the traffic it prevented us from coming here today. And you found a parking spot. And you paid for that, and you walked up those stairs of the Mint Museum to get here and sit in this seat. And so I just want to express gratitude that you have made it here, and you've chosen to be here with us. So thank you. Thank you. As I'd mentioned, I know so many of you, but I bet you don't know each other. A practice that I have done since we have begun this project is, again, find ways to make us all feel more like family before we leave. There's probably somebody who's close to you who you don't know. Can you take a moment and say hello to them? introduce yourself.
That was really hard for me.
That's great, though. That's real. That was real.
That was hard.
It feels a little better in here, right? There's not going to be a test at the end whether or not you remember their name, but you should try. A trick that I use is I think of somebody else who has that same name, and then I think about them all as being Mariahs. You have joined the Mariah team, right? I offer this trick to you. Try it. Now think about that person's name, and there will be a quiz at the end. I was at Jay-Z Addict's Liberation Dinner recently, and what this artist does is she travels all over the world, and she learns recipes and the cuisine of the different places that she travels to, and then she brings those recipes back here to Charlotte, and she invites people into her home, and we get to try those meals. When I was at one just this past week, she, instead of asking us to introduce ourselves, she asked us to introduce the person that we came with. And I loved this practice because it gave your partner or your colleague an opportunity to hype you, right? To say all the things that they see in you that maybe you don't see in yourself. And so I'd like to borrow this practice from Jay-Z Addict as we start today. And I'd like to ask Nina and James to introduce each other. And they didn't know. They didn't know that I was going to ask them to do this. But we've been working together now for 3 years, and so they know that I put them on the spot often.
Yes, we do.
This is a beautiful couple, and I've had such a joy, I've had such a pleasure working with them over these past few years. And I feel deeply honored that they literally opened the doors to their home to welcome me into their lives. And so, James, I'd love to hear a bit about the person who is sitting to your left.
This is horrifying, y'all.
What? You don't know what I'm going to say, or is that the horrifying?
Yes, okay.
All right. Well, the best decision I ever made in my life was marrying Nina Ford. We'll just start there. So,
Feeling better.
my life is totally enriched because she's a big sister, and she has a heart for people, and she's as selfless as anyone that I've ever met. And we've been on a 40-year journey, if we make it to November 26th, as she likes to remind me. And so we will be married prayerfully 40 years. And yes. So we met in college. She was a little country girl from Henderson, North Carolina. I was a little project boy from Savannah, Georgia. And it was just the beginning of something great. So Nina, I am here because of you, and it's my pleasure to be a part of, I know, is one of your biggest passions, which is creating a home that is full of love. And it's because of you, I have that as part of my life. So that's all I want to say about you. What you got to say about me? It won't be the same, trust me. She loves making jokes, so I think, go ahead.
Okay, so I need to try and be a little sincere, a little serious.
No, do you, boo?
That ain't really me.
No.
But no,
Do you?
this is James Action Jackson. And so one of my funny stories is, we just talked about this the other night. We have been married 40 years in November, if it happens. So we've been through a lot of things together. And one of the things that we've been through is the world using email. So we were talking the other day to my nephew, who is living with us now. He's 23. And he said something about, well, y'all didn't have email? We're like, no, we didn't have a computer. We didn't have, we didn't have a bunch of stuff. And James said, yes, we did. No, really, we did not. They started en masse using email when James worked for Bank of America, probably in the early 90s, right? Somewhere in the 90s is when they got email. And so his name is James Charles Jackson, not an original name. And so when they opened up and there were banks in, all over the world, there were quite a few James C. Jacksons. And so he would get other folks' emails for a while. So he decided he was going to name himself James Action Jackson. So that was his email thing. And at work. And
If I don't believe it, who will?
He still has that name. Mr. McCall, who was his mentor and his hero and the whole nine, thought it was really cool. So Mr. McCall started calling him Action Jackson. Wow. And after that, it was just no stopping him. So people ask him all the time now, how did you get the name Action Jackson? And my favorite thing is to say he gave it to himself. So anyway, this is James Action Jackson, and that's kind of who he is. If it's something, he just makes it happen. He is that guy who will just make it happen. Sometimes I think it's great, sometimes it gets on my nerves. But that's who he is. We have been together, for 41 years now, and a lot of this, exhibit is about when it is at its core. When we strip it down and Jessica asks us hard questions and interviewers ask us hard questions about our art collection process and all that, it was all about making our home and making it comfortable and making people comfortable when they came and doing things that expressed us. And James just kind of wasn't, that wasn't top of his mind, but he always has supported me. Whatever I want to do, if I think it's a good idea, he thinks it's a great idea. If I think it's a good idea and I'm a little hesitant because I think it might take too much time or cost too much or whatever, he's like, well, no, you need to do it. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. So he's always been that guy. I don't tell him much. I don't compliment him much.
This before.
Yeah. Who has just been very supportive. So the things that we've collected through the years, our process and all, have been because I love art. I love all art. I was brought up around art. My dad was artistic. My mother was artistic. James, that kind of wasn't his interest as much. But now
have art in the project.
Now he's all in. He's all in. And so James is a great guy. He was a banker. He's now a community volunteer, likes to give back, is very supportive of me, was always very supportive of my family, and just, a great person to ride with for almost 40 years.
Almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking to the next 40. Thank you. Thanks, sir.
So much better than what I would have said. And an entry point for us into who these people are as both individuals and who they are together as the Jacksons. Thank you for doing that. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that there was another couple collectors, collector couple. Not a couple of collectors, a collector couple, who was supposed to be joining us today. And that is Judy and Patrick Diamond. Judy and Patrick were unable to join us today because they are experiencing a loss. And as we know, life is always lifing. And instead of asking them in their grief to try to navigate their presence in a program at the museum, we instead thought about it being an opportunity, another opportunity, to engage a local artists, to create a short piece that actually invites us into their home. So it's an added treat for y'all here today. You'll only see it here. It won't be available online. And this is a glimpse into the private collection of Judy and Patrick Diamond. And so if you've never been to their home before, this is a real treat. You know, they have shown their collection in over 25 institutions. They've been collecting for upwards of 50 years. And they just celebrated their 50th anniversary. This is an opportunity for applause. Right? And so they can't be here with us today. But the two artists who worked on this short film are here with us today. And that's Carrie J. King and Mia. And they're right here in their matching outfits. Did you guys do that on purpose? And so at this time, I would like you all to get comfortable in your seats because we're going to watch a short 5-minute piece. We're going to premiere, it's exciting, a short piece made by these two Charlotte-based artists inside the private home of the Diamonds. You said, that was really well done, and it was. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, welcome back. That was incredible. And in lieu of their presence here physically in the space, I think it really did justice. And as you go upstairs into the formal gallery space and you explore the Diamond collection, I think you'll have an opportunity to get to know who these folks are even more through their collection. Okay, there are a few things that are here in this space. So I'm gonna get up and walk around again. I'm gonna take the long way so you can see the full dress. It's cute, right? It's from Boris and Natasha. You can get it too. There's a few things downstairs in the gift shop of the museum that I'd like to point out. Working with this project has been really cool because we've been able to investigate all of the ways that the museum can bend. One of those ways is supporting local artists. One of those ways is supporting local collectors. We also have writers and authors who are supported downstairs in the gift shop. This is a book that was written by Patrick Diamond. It's called The Incredible Joy of Collecting African American Art. He was supposed to be here to do a book signing after today's program, but like Julia Childs, when she just pulls it out of the oven and it's already done, these are already signed. And you can buy them downstairs in the gift shop. So I highly encourage you to do this. It will provide even more opportunity to hear about Patrick's exploration as a collector. Also in the gift shop, perfect timing, my friend, we work with local artist Queen Loney to design currency. You feel me? Okay, we're in the Mint Museum. The show is called The Vault, sponsored by Bank of America. So we made money. Money. Queen Loney designed this money that has a black woman in the center. Dello of McFly in the back there in the corner. Produced these locally, all made and produced by local Charlotte-based artists. And these are also available for purchase downstairs in the gift shop. It's a patch. It's gonna look fly, like on the side, right? Like on your tote bag, on a tee. There's a lot of weight. I mean, we got a stack of them. They look so good. I can't wait for the photo, like holding all the money. There's only 30 of them, limited edition. 12 have already sold. Don't wait. These are things that are available in the gift shop. Also in the gift shop, one of the things that we did in this collecting journey, no, you don't have to stand up yet. When I invited the Jacksons to work on this project, one of the first things that Nina said is, I spend more time in the gift shop than I do in the galleries. And they live just across the street. Nina expressed that she buys Christmas presents, birthday gifts, graduation presents, etc., all downstairs at the Mint Museum gift shop. So while we were working on this project, I thought it was a great opportunity for Nina to have a chance to curate a space in the gift shop. So if you go downstairs, not only will you see some objects that are in the Jackson's collection that you can also purchase, but you'll see a space that is made just for Nina downstairs in the gift shop. Okay, and then lastly, on this walking journey, you'll see this table set up behind us. Maybe this is a good time now if you guys want to join me at the table. There's a number of objects that are on this table, and what I thought for today, we could do something different. You know, we have been, the show opened on July 1st, and we've done a number of different programs. And we've talked about the curatorial process of the exhibition. We've talked about collector methodology and philosophy. But we haven't done a show and tell of objects that didn't make it upstairs. And so again, another unique opportunity for folks who are here today to hear directly from the Jacksons, because collecting is ever evolving. Our practice never stops. Charisse, this is a caveat, but once our checklist was done, Charisse Terry had just acquired an influx of new works and was like, Jessica, can we add this? Can this be a part? You know, at one point the painting has to be done, so you hang it on the wall. This doesn't mean that our collecting practice stops. And so here's an opportunity to hear from two collectors. Should I move this? I don't know, so you could see them. You're gonna hear from two collectors about objects that didn't make it upstairs, but are still a part of their collection. I feel like it's so intimate that maybe you guys should come closer so you could see better, like the folks in the back, or maybe you can come up. I don't wanna make any rules. This is just really intimate. You know, there's only 20 people in the space. Yeah, come closer. That's right. Remember we did those intros? We got to know each other. Thank you. Wow, this is a team effort. I appreciate everybody.
Fantastic.
All right, James and Nina Jackson, take it away.
Okay, so I don't,
Well, just to object a little bit to the notion of collectors, because there are some real collectors like Quincy and Patrick and what they do.
and Charmin.
And Charmin, of course. Nina's about making a home feel comfortable. And throughout our lives, although we've collected art along the way, the art was put into the home so that the home would fulfill a feeling of joy and happiness. And so Nina's great at decorating, and art is just a centerpiece of that. And I'll just tell one quick story. So I worked for Bank of America for a long time when it was the old Nations Bank, and we were buying banks, and we bought a bank in Florida. We moved there. I went first. I think it was our first home that I bought. I picked out the house. She let me pick out the house, and she settled for that. And then she started decorating the house. And we had some friends come over one day, and they said, "Your house looks like a museum." And it was just the idea that Nina has great taste in coming up with making a home feel like a home. And so I don't want the label of collector to say something different than you just buy the stuff that you like and want to live with. And I'm just blessed because Nina has an eye. It doesn't matter if it's from a flea market or from a museum or from an artist directly. It's finding what you like where it is and incorporating into your living. and making it a part of who you are. And my friend came over and said, "Oh, this is really nice. It feels like a museum in here." And this was our very first house, and it was because my wife has an eye towards decorating and loves art as part of that process. So I just wanted to do that and then turn it over to you, Nina. So
when his friend said that, he totally meant it as a compliment. But it said to me, I was like, oh, well, does that mean it's cold? You know, so it was, for me, kind of hard to accept. And then he explained, no, it's really, everything goes together, whatever. So I've learned to take that as a compliment, but at first, I didn't really know what that meant. Does that mean it looks unapproachable? Because I never want anything to be unapproachable. So when you come to our house, we are the collectors in this exhibition that give anybody hope, if you want to be a collector, that you can too be a collector, because it's just not that serious for us. I seriously love art, all art. This is about collecting Black art. I have all kinds of art. I fall in love with artists. I have, non-Black artists I've fallen in love with, things that I love so much. One of my favorite things is from a woman who is from Taiwan. So I just love art, and I love the way that someone's hand, having been on something, brings energy into the space. And so that's we are the collectors who just want to have the things that make us feel good at home. So anything that you love that somebody's hand was on, for me, can be art. And when Jessica has asked us probing questions like, well, when did you first start collecting art? The whole thing, if anyone has seen the exhibition already, the thing that when Jessica came and talked to us about art, our big thing was Black Santas, which, as everyone knows, is not really fine art necessarily, can be, but the collection was the point. And I was talking with a friend of ours who is a big art collector, a really wonderful white guy, and I was telling him that we were going to be in this exhibition. And he has done all kinds of exhibitions and everything. And he said, well, what are you going to have? And I said, well, actually, one of the things they're going to do for us is Black Santas. And he said, oh, well, what is that? Now, this is a guy who is all about inclusion. He has all kinds of friends. He has all kinds of art. He literally, I'm sure, has art pieces that cost $1 million. But he had no idea what a Black Santa was. I said, well, let me just tell you. I said, when we think of Santa Claus, typically, we don't necessarily think how he looks. It's just how he makes you feel and whatever. And I said, and really, for us, Santa Claus was like a nice Black guy we knew. Somebody who was going to bring us toys and who was going to... And he said, oh. And I said, so through the years when James and I first got married, we kind of decided, it wasn't conscious or intentional, I just decided that I wanted our Christmas tree to look like us and to feel approachable. And so I started sort of collecting Black ornaments and Black Santas. He said, oh, he had not thought that Black Santas was a thing. And so I thought, okay, Jessica's really onto something, because he is a lovely person, he is an inclusive person, but he did not have a clue. Now, fast forward to telling my Black friends that I was going to do Black Santas, and they were like, oh, my mama collects Black Santas. Oh, yeah, my cousin collects. Everybody pretty much in the African-American world knows that we collect Black Santas. So it's really interesting when I go up to the space and I see people, the Black people will go, oh, yeah, look, and they just look and quickly go through it, and it's like, oh, yeah, I got that one, or I had that one. Like, oh, I got that one, whatever. And many of the white people just are really looking because it's a new thing. I see my neighbor here who also collects Santas, but not necessarily Black Santas, but he collects Santas too. So collecting Santas is a thing, and in the Black world, y'all, collecting Black Santas is a thing. So that's kind of how that got started. This is a table. The one thing that I found when you allow a museum to have your things is whether or not you think you have an ego about your stuff. I did. And so And it was like, oh, well, I don't like the way they did that, or they didn't do that right, or they should have used this one, or why didn't they use this, or why didn't they ask for this, or I've got way nicer stuff than what's, on exhibition. And so I was calling Jessica, and poor Jessica said, kind of like you told Sharice, there comes a point where we got to stop adding. We can't add anything else. It is done. It's cool. We're not trying to create your living room. We're trying to tell people that this is a way that they can collect. This is a form of collecting. This is valuable. Even though it's not fine art, the collection itself is valuable. But I tell you what, when it's your time to talk, if you want to bring some show and tell items, we can do it that way. So these are some show and tell that they didn't use. And so just to tell the story, like I said, our collecting is all about creating a home. And when you think about who, if you're fortunate like James and I were, who helps you understand what home should feel like? It's, I love my daddy. Shout out to my daddy. My daddy has a piece in the exhibition. But the person who typically creates the feel of the home is your mama. And so James and I both, loved our mamas. Both of us lost our mamas in 2019. That was a year. And so in just kind of trying to do our show and tell today, we thought about what was it that our moms did to, create the home. And and my cousin is here, so he knew my mother. Obviously, my first cousin is here. And so my mother was, that girl. She had a high school education, but she was a civil rights activist in her own way. She worked the polls, voted. And so one of the things that we talked about, voting was just paramount. If you did not vote, my mother did not like you, kind of thing. If Jason didn't vote, it's like people fought and died for you to have the chance to vote, kind of thing. So we recently went to an art show, and Nellie Ashford, who was in the exhibition, had some things for sale. And one of the things that we saw was this piece here that is black ladies voting, and there's a black poll worker lady. And with the things that are going on now, we know how important voting is and how being a poll worker is important. My mother always worked the polls. From the time I can remember, my mother always worked the polls. And my mother, this was before cell phones and everything, she would call the house and say, Miss Cooper hadn't been up here to vote yet, somebody needs to go get her. Or somebody needs to go tell her she has to vote. So voting to her was a huge thing. And if you didn't vote, you kind of were a second-class citizen to her. And so, like I said, both of the mamas died in 2019, which means in 2018, they were, totally sick and infirm or whatever. But this is a picture of my mother going to vote in 2018. It was very important to her that she went to vote. She's got her little voting pin on right here. And then this is a picture of James's mama, and James taking her to go to vote in 2018. And she literally died at the beginning of 2019, but she was bound and determined that she was going to go and vote for she lived in Georgia, so she was going to go and vote for that Stacey Abrams. So he had to take her to go vote for Stacey Abrams. So this is it. And then when I was thinking about it, I realized that voting has always played a big part. And in 1994, when South Africa had their first election where everybody could vote, this is one of the ballots from that time. And a friend of ours who knew that we liked art and everything went to South Africa, and he bought some of those, and he brought that back to us. This was when Nelson Mandela became president of South Africa. So, yeah. So just to talk a little bit more about the Santas, first year we were married is when the whole Christmas Santa thing sort of got started. And like I have told before, I always loved Christmas trees and everything growing up. My mama's trees were great, but they didn't have personal things. They became personal because, we had them for so long, but they weren't personal. And so I just told Mom, I want to do something different with my Christmas tree. And in typical mama fashion, whatever was important to us was important to her. So she used to like to quilt. So that Christmas, right after I told her, she made me these little handmade quilted Christmas ornaments. So I didn't put them in the exhibition because I could not risk losing those, but those are from Mama. And these are, you know, this is a shout out to the gift shop. This is Gift Shop Center downstairs. Yep. And so, again, full circle. My mother was not a person of a lot of means or whatever, but she worked really, really hard. It was very important to her to, you know, save money and have something to leave to her children, like most, you know, a lot of moms. And so when she died in 2019, it was really important to her, even though I said, Mama, we're good, you know, you don't need to leave us anything. Yeah, I'm gonna leave you, you know, 4 ways, split between my 4 children. I don't care if you take it and burn it up, I'm gonna leave you, okay. So when Mama passed, she left us a little money, and I said, I'm gonna buy something for myself that I would not ordinarily buy for myself with Mama's money, so it'll be a real good memory rather than pay a bill or something. When she was very sick, she came here and we took her to a baseball game and stopped her at Romare Bearden Park. We're trying to make her walk. And so we stopped at Romare Bearden Park. The statue had gone up, the Richard Hunt statue had gone up, and she was kind of fascinated with it. Well, what is this? I told her about it. I told her it was a black guy a black man who was the sculptor, and he was world-renowned. And I said, Mom, I think he's about your age. Well, sure enough, after she passed, and I looked it up, and I had just taken this picture just with James and Mama sitting at the statue. I looked it up, and Richard Hunt was born in 1935. Mama was born in 1934. She didn't know a lot about art or anything like that. But when I realized that I had this picture with Mama in front of his sculpture, and I wanted to buy myself a piece of art, I decided I'm going for it. I'm gonna buy myself a Richard Hunt piece. And so this is a Richard Hunt piece bought with money from my mama, and her sitting there in front of the Richard Hunt. And this is the, just really interesting, this is the first lady who owned this piece. And she bought it at an auction in Chicago. Apparently, Mr. Hunt had made it to donate to a children's hospital or something, charity. And so this lady bought it, and my mother ran a little store when I was young, and she had this little white lady friend. We knew it was her mama's white lady friend. And her name was Mrs. Hines. And Mrs. Hines was the candy lady. She would bring the candy for the store. And she looked sort of like this lady. She looked a lot like this lady. So when I saw this picture, I was like, this is Mrs. Hines in my sculpture. So it was in 1960. They would have been the right age. So this is the show and tell stuff that we have. I do all the talking. Go ahead, James.
You took my line, so
sorry.
I do want to just add generally, because what Nina's mother did allowed Nina to, you know, basically accomplish a dream that she never would have done that. Nina never would have done that for herself. And so I think that's the blessing in it. The other blessing that we had when I was in banking, because we moved like 9 times, so we always had a home that we needed to decorate. And so starting over and, you know, creating that was pretty important. So Nina and I had a little bit of an agreement, because at the bank, if we had really good years, you know, we would get bonuses. And although our mothers taught us to save first, which we did, but don't save all, you know, live some in the moment. And so we decided that we would take a portion of anything that we got above the normal salary and figure out something that we wanted to buy to add to the collection. And so a little bit all of the time, over time, creates a collection, basically. And so I just wanted to share that, because the other way that we have been able to enjoy art over time is to continually invest in it and be interested in it. And Nina's mother knew that, and I bet she's not surprised at all how you decided to spend her money.
First of all, Jessica, you created I'm emotional because you created an element of home in this space and acceptance and love, and I just really appreciate that. We are beginners we were just told we were collectors, even though we have a few pieces, that once you have 3, you're a collector. And I had a painting, and I can't find any information on this artist, but my dad, and he didn't have much. My mom died, and then he died in 93 and lost his home. I didn't know that was happening. But there was one painting that I was able to save. It was by a black artist in Cleveland. We're from Cleveland, Ohio. And this painting was a little girl sitting on a tricycle, remind me of my sister. She's crying right in front of a house, looks like my granddad's house. And it's a special piece. It's right when people come in. And I thought about what you said about making your place a home where people feel invited. And people stop by, and we were just talking about the other day, we had some friends say, like, people are like, wow, this is amazing. And I just want people to feel that way when they come in. It's not about the house, it's about the love behind it and the story. And so I just really appreciate that. And I love this. I didn't expect this. I was just going to come here and listen to some artists or some collectors, and then I'm out, you know? It's like, this is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that.
I appreciate that comment so much because look at what has happened even here today. We are in this dry auditorium. I asked Nina and James to bring some objects for show and tell, and I walked in here and I said, Nina, did you make an altar? You made it yours. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Jamila. Thank you, Jamila. Thank you, Jamila. For y'all that missed the intro, you gotta run that back. Thank you, everybody. What was I saying? Who was listening? She made an altar here, right? Like literally the entire exhibition is about making home. And I walked in here today, just not even expecting anything. And Nina and James made it theirs. I think this is a true testament to what you're saying, my friend, and something that is just inherently a part of our practice as Black people. We know how to make something ours. And Nina and James, there was something that you were saying upstairs about the museum feeling cold, right? Like the institution feeling, you're like, this is not what my home feels like, right? It feels cold in here, it feels sterile. And there are some things that we did within the space to try to amend that feeling, to make that home feeling that you were talking about feel more accessible. And so when we go upstairs after we end our program today and you explore the gallery spaces, I wonder, as you walk through the main bank vault and enter into this keeper of some of the world's most secure and invaluable objects, whether your physical body turns to the left or to the right. To the left, you will see a more institutional space with sharp edges and high corners. Works are formally hung at 60 inches with Baroque gold frames. It feels like a museum. This is what the Lee collection looks like. And we are joined today by Quincy Lee of the Lee Collection. Applause. Who, when I first came to your home, you shared an anecdote that whenever you went to a museum, you saw those big gold frames hung appropriately at 60 inches from the floor. And when you first had your home, what you decided was to make it feel like a museum. And so we brought that concept upstairs to the museum. If you move your body To the right, as you come into the space, you'll see round archways, curves, lower door frames, a tightness, physical and architectural elements that remind you of interior spaces. You are at home in this space. And you will be able to explore the Jackson collection. So I wonder if I hadn't told you these caveats, how you might move. But now that you know, I wonder how you'll explore. Nina and James are here today to answer questions about not only their collecting practice, methodology, and philosophy, but their practice as humans who support other artists, who are interested in investing in our local community, who are interested in not only Santa Clauses, right? It's cute, it's kitschy. But are formal collectors who are deeply invested in supporting individual artists over time, and not just objects on a wall or that sit in a space. I can't wait for you all to get upstairs and learn more about Nina and James's connection to TJ Reddy specifically. Okay, so without formal ado, because I know that there are some burning questions in the audience, I'd like to share the microphone at this point.
Oh, I'm Jill.
Hi, Jill.
Hey, Nikki, wherever you are. Hey. Oh, there she is. So you've been collecting for 40 years. And so my question is there a particular piece that means more to you than the other ones? And this is, I think, directing to you because it sounds like you...
I'm in charge of the art.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I have 49%.
So, and has that changed over time? Is there a different piece? And if you could explain what kind of emotion or what it is in particular. Also, whether you could let us know whether it's actually in the exhibition or at your home or whatever. So, thank you.
That's a really great question. And I anticipated that someone might ask me that question, but I could not come up with the answer to the question. Because I think when you love art like I love art, the favorite piece is probably like, and we don't have children, but it's probably like your favorite child is the child that you're with at the moment, who's showing you love and feeling good, and you're hugging on them that at the moment. So for me, typically the favorite piece is the piece that I'm living with at the time, that I'm looking at, and it's making me feel good. So that's kind of the answer. There are two pieces though that stand out. To answer your last question, has it changed over time? So there's one piece, and they're not in the collection, but there's a diptych, when there are two pieces that go together, and there are two bigger pieces. And when we lived in Fort Lauderdale, we became friends with a wonderful self-taught artist who was from Cleveland, by the way. Her name she was wonderful. African-American woman, a little bit older than me, so she'd probably be about 70 now or something. She was a self-taught artist. Her name was Justine Alexander. And Justine, we have a lot of pieces of Justine's at our house too. But she had some friends, a starving artist sale. And so she was like, Nina, you love art, and I got some friends, come by, we're gonna do. So we went to the starving artist sale. And there wasn't anything at the sale that I really loved, that really drew me in, but I saw some pieces that I thought were nice, but there was this diptych that I kept kind of going back to. And I thought, well, I don't really love it, but I'm attracted to it for some reason, to them. And so I want to buy something, I want to support, so I bought these pieces. And we actually ended up putting them in a space. They were really good when COVID happened, and you needed to do a good zoom back background. They had not been hung before. Well, I think I had given it to you to hang at another place, at an office space, but didn't really love them, and so they just were so cool looking. They were good for the Zoom background, right? And then I looked at them more and more, and I lived with them. I bought these in the 90s, and I bought maybe 2000 or so. I bought them. But then I began to love them, and I didn't understand why I began to love them, but I really began to love them, and I realized that to me, they looked like a sharecropper family sitting on a porch, black sharecropper looking to me. They looked like a black sharecropper family sitting on a porch of a house that I thought was cool, but it wasn't supposed to be cool. It was, a little sort of shack house, but I loved it. I thought it was cool. And then there was a little girl sitting on the other one, and the whole rest of the family was sitting looking straight ahead like this, and they were looking like, okay, we're sharecroppers, but we're okay. And then there was this other little girl in the other picture, and she had on a dress that was a little bit brighter color, and she was looking like this, like, I'm not feeling this at all. And so she was looking away in the other direction, and she just looked a little brighter. And then I realized that was a picture that reminded me of my daddy and his family, because my daddy grew up a sharecropper. His family were sharecroppers. It was the same number of kids, but daddy was a little girl. He was the oldest, and he was a little girl, and he was like, love y'all, but I'm out. I got to do something else. And so I thought I was attracted to it because it was my family. It was my dad who told the story about when he decided he was going to figure out a way to go to college. He lived in Lumberton in the Marietta, North Carolina area, and he figured out how to get a quote-unquote scholarship. That's a whole nother story. When he got there, it wasn't really a scholarship, but he went to Hampton Institute, and he was able to stay by being a janitor in the whole nine. But he talked about how he had to not fight physically, but defy his father to leave. He was like, you're my oldest, I need you to bring this crop in, how can you leave? And his mama, whose name was Nina, was in the background going, go, we'll be okay, you go. And so I realized that I came to love that painting, that diptych, because that's what it came to represent to me when I was able to see it. It always was that, but I wasn't able to see it until I was ready to see it. So,
Yeah. I guess the one I would highlight is the one we got in, I think we were in New Orleans during the time, Stevenson, the piece that is essentially a representation of New Orleans, and it's made out of cloth, and it's like a group of people all in line, sort of marching to the beat, and it feels a little spiritual, but it also feels a little celebratory, so like you're out partying, but you're also, sort of respecting the elders and your higher belief, and it just breathes life. So every time I walk past that painting, I feel like I want to just groove with them, and so it just brings on sort of a happy feeling every time I walk down the hall and take a look at that piece.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We do not have time for more questions in this formal space, but that doesn't mean that our conversation has to end here. I hope you all join me upstairs in the gallery, where not only I'll be there to continue answering a few questions, but you'll also see Charlotte-based artist Sancho Smalls. He's positioned right in front of our vault door there to take a portrait of you. You and you for free. This incredible artist is here just for today to memorialize each of you who have come here in our family album. And for every program that we have had since we started this project, We have had a different local photographer here to document all of the folks who have come to participate in each of our programs. So please get your picture taken. Also, please follow Sancho online so you can see some more of his incredible work and another opportunity to meet a local artist. Please go downstairs to the gift shop to not only see Patrick's book that is signed already and for sale, but also pick up some cash that was made by Queen Loney and fabricated by Dello in the back. Make sure to say thank you to Nina and James. Thank you to Quincy. Thank you to Dello. Thank you to Carrie. Thank you, Nia. Thank you to all of the artists who made today successful. Thank you to Mint. One second, I'm so sorry, we do not have time for any more questions. However, you can say all of, yes. Thank you so much to Mint staff, Maggie, Cynthia, Jamila, for making this possible. Thank you, Robbie, for recording us. Thank you, John in the back. Thank you, Maggie in the back. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.